Welcome to the Latino Podcast, where we discuss the intersection of law and our Latino communities with legal, political, and community leaders and visionaries. Let's get started.
Hey, everybody, it's John Gomez. Welcome to our latest episode of the Latino, where we discuss the coming together of law in our Latino communities. We feature lawyers, judges, lawmakers, difference makers, social movers, business owners, and those that make a difference at the intersection of law in our Latino communities. This episode, as always, is brought to you by your sponsor, Gomez Trial Attorneys. Gomez Trial Attorneys is a consumer rights law firm, the largest Latino founded consumer rights law firm in California. We represent consumers injured in personal injury matters of whose civil rights have been violated. We do employment cases for workers who have been treated unfairly or illegally. We do mass tort cases on behalf of consumers who have been injured by defective products or bad business practices. And we do it all with an eye toward providing the highest level legal services in a bilingual, bicultural, binational way. We try to provide the very highest legal representation in both the English and Spanish languages and in a cultural sensitivity that reflects who we are here at Gomez Trial Attorneys. Today I have as my co-host, as always, ever since he was formerly a guest, sitting in that chair where our guest is sitting today, now at the firm, David Arreguin, who heads up our U.S.-Mexico corridor practice and also has a heavy hand in cultivating and making great our attorney relationships. And so, David, you were the one that invited our guest, and I'm so pleased to finally meet this gentleman in person. I've heard so much about him. Why don't you do the honors of introducing our guest for today?
Oh, of course, and thank you for that intro, John. And yes, I was a guest, and I was talking to our guest, Narciso, about that before. So very interesting. So we have Narciso Cruz. He goes by Nar. Also, I've heard great things about him, even though this is the first time I meet him. So that says something. And I told you this before the podcast started. That says something. A big fan of branding, a big fan of marketing, and a great integration attorney. Narciso, it's all you.
Oh, thanks a lot, everyone here. My name is Narciso Cruz. People call me Nar. Some people call me Super Nar, at least within the marketing space. I market to the Latino community, the Spanish-speaking community, all over the U.S. Immigration is federal, so that's what I love about immigration. I could practice in San Diego, but I have a national practice, so that is beautiful about immigration. But I was born in Mexico. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. My parents brought me here when I was 2 years old. I grew up in South Central. It's not the best area to grow up in. However, it did teach me a lot. And I grew up like your average immigrant. And what do I mean by that? Parents were immigrants, hardworking people. We didn't have a lot, but we were rich in love. My parents worked very hard, and we lived in a one-bedroom apartment. There was 6 of us in there, and so I grew up with a sense of what we had and what we didn't have. But, I focused on the positive then. So, yeah, my family, my upbringing is all about the immigrant story, and I love that concept, the immigrant story, because immigrants are just very strong people. They're resilient people. They have that mindset of starting a business in America. They believe in the American dream.
And so I was reading up a little. Well, congratulations for you. You've realized the American dream. You are the embodiment of the American dream, from that one-bedroom apartment in South Central to immigrant parents. Now you have this successful, very far-reaching legal practice and social presence. So congratulations to you first. But, having such a heart for our immigrant communities and immigrants, I imagine the times we're in now, might be tough for you.
Oh, absolutely, John. You have no idea, not just for me, but a lot of my colleagues, immigration attorneys. It's a very difficult time at this moment. It's almost like we're living in a dream. And what I mean by that is it seems like things are happening and it just seems like it's unreal. The erosion of due process, of systems, of democracy is happening slowly. It's almost like we're crabs being cooked. And you know how to cook a crab. You don't boil it immediately. You put it in cold water and eventually the temperature rises and the crab doesn't notice it's in there, but the pot is boiling. I feel like we're in there, and it seems like every single change, everything that happens is becoming the new norm. And somehow we're in this dream. We just haven't woke up and realized we're inside that pot. But yes, absolutely. It's very difficult right now to deal with immigration. Enforcement is a real thing. And we're not just talking about immigration, undocumented illegal immigration. We're talking about eroding the process for immigrants to get legal status the right way, which is through the legal systems, through the avenues Congress created quite a while ago.
And so how does that feel? I mean, I'm a lawyer and I think about, a lawyer like you doing the kind of work that you and your colleagues do. And all of a sudden, like the rules are not being followed or they're changing the rules, or there's just a complete disregard for rules. Or if, the judge is following the rules, they fire the judge. Or, the clients go to court and they get detained at court, or they're, just about to take their oath or something and they get detained. Like that would feel, to me, I imagine being in that situation, I feel like it would be very demoralizing. I feel like I would have like personal reactions to it. I would get depressed, I think. And I don't know, maybe hopeless, but maybe, I don't know, like how are you doing individually, personally? How are your colleagues doing?
Yeah, I mean, if you really go into the trenches and possibly touch the pulse of immigration attorneys, they're having a difficult time. And I'm not talking about just the attorneys who do removal defense, deportation defense. I'm talking about immigration attorneys who usually handle cases that are prepared and for people to qualify for these benefits. They go to their interview at USCIS and then all of a sudden you get detained by ICE. You're at a detention center. And we're talking about people who are married to U.S. citizens, have U.S. citizen children, and have all the eligibility, the qualifications to get that green card, except they were just, unfortunately, detained at their interview. I mean, what are you telling people? Do the right thing, follow the system, and then you get arrested? What does that tell you? But yes, it's very demanding nowadays. And so, immigration attorneys are banding together. I'm really proud of San Diego, just immigration attorneys, AILA, American Immigration. That organization is really banding together here locally in San Diego, and we are making a lot of movement toward going to the federal courts where you go and file either your writ of mandamus or your writ of habeas corpus, and you litigate. You litigate now in a different courtroom. You used to litigate with USCIS and with immigration court, but now we're in federal court, and that is now the new norm for immigration attorneys, is to be licensed, to be admitted to federal district court and to litigate in federal district court. But yes, it's very taxing. And one of the things I personally do is I try to look at the positive. I know a lot of my colleagues, either they go on walks, they speak to their neighbors. Personally, what I do is I keep a gratitude journal. I think it's one of the best things I've ever done. Reason being is because throughout the day, I know I have to complete my gratitude journal. I know I have to have at least 10 gratitudes. And throughout the day, I look for things to be grateful for, just to write them down. And that changes the mindset. That makes the mindset into a positive mindset. You look at the upside as opposed to, what's going on, or just focus on the negative.
I like it. Well, I will say for anyone listening, anyone that does immigration work, I'm obviously admitted to the federal district courts. I was a law clerk there. I was a federal prosecutor there. I feel like I have a good relationship with many of those, judges. I think we have good judges here in our district for that kind of thing. You have Judge Curiel, you have Judge Lopez. We have some good judges, so I didn't really know that cases were taking that pathway. So either you or any of your colleagues need, like a moderately competent lawyer to help out. Like I for sure am willing to do that pro bono. I know many of my lawyers here would be willing to help with that. So hats off to you for doing that good work. And the gratitude journal.
So just so you know, John has like the whole team write 5 things that we are grateful for on Mondays.
Yeah.
Every Monday we do this. And then we have 5 attitudes that we're actually putting into the world. I thank you for that because I was not doing that before, but hearing you say that, it definitely paints a vision. It paints a success for that week.
Wow, it's definitely something I encourage everyone to do. It's definitely changed my mindset. I'm a lot more positive, and does money make you happy, or does getting the new iPhone make you happy? No, it's really you make yourself happy, and it's the way you look at the world, and that's definitely very important. But what an amazing culture you have here at this office. You have people getting together and counting their wins. In order for you to run an effective team, you definitely have to encourage people. You have to make them believe in the mission, the vision. They have to buy into that, and they have to know that what you're doing here is greater than one individual. So hats off to you, John. I might start implementing this at the firm now.
Oh yeah, they'll love it. They have I give them clipboards, and it says gratitude and attitude. They have stickers. And so like a lot of them will do it on their phone, these new guys, but the old guys will have it on the clipboard. I do 10 of each every day. Like I'm like you, I do 10. But like people have said, or team members have said it's made a positive difference. We're having a vision board workshop tomorrow at 3:00, encouraging all of our team members to participate. So all that positive manifestation, all that positive energy, we know that it makes a difference. And for me, like if I miss a day, like it's like, holy cow, it's like you feel it.
I feel like just the fact that you're conscious about it, because a lot of times you have a plan, you have a goal, but I feel like you got to write it down, like, and remind yourself why you're doing it and why you got to keep doing it. So I think it's very important to actually write it down.
No, absolutely. I carry my journal with me and almost everywhere. So yeah, that vision board idea is beautiful. And I think people might look at that and might say, hey, it's just, it's blotting something out. Exactly. But the reality is that, if you're in this industry and you are a CEO, an entrepreneur, you definitely have to have a vision. You have to stick to that vision. You have to be able to communicate that vision. And sometimes it's very beneficial to work backwards. There's a great book. It's called The Science of Scaling. Just read it. It's a beautiful book, and it talks about working backwards. You start with the big, audacious goal, and you work backwards. And sometimes what happens is all this noise that we're bothered with day to day, it makes sense to maybe not deal with it and deal with the most important things that will take you to that vision. So you could ask yourself, how do I get here from this big audacious goal? Well, you have 4 quarters. Every year has 4 quarters, 90 days. And every month you have an opportunity to get to that goal. And you have to think backwards. You have to think about, what is it? What movements, what one thing can get me to that goal? It could be a revenue goal. It could be maybe a systems goal. It could maybe be obtaining a new practice area. But yeah, definitely vision work is super important. Not a lot of work, not a lot of lawyers deal with vision work, but I think it's super important, because oftentimes we're just reacting, and it's better to be proactive. It's better to be intentional. And I make an effort to live with intention and make sure that every single day I'm looking at my vision board. I'm looking at my big audacious goal, my revenue goal. I'm looking at those goals because they have to have I have to make an impact. I have to do impactful work, and it's super important for me to do that and focus on that.
Well, I think I totally agree, and thank you for that. I will say that, of the many guests we've had, I'm not sure that, someone has come in to visit with us with the energy and passion you have for kind of enterprise and brand building. And I feel like a lot of our listeners, maybe you've seen this too, particularly, in the Latino community, a lot of great, even lawyers they don't want to sell themselves. Like it's like a humility thing, right? Like you're taught that in the culture. They don't want to promote themselves maybe as much. They don't feel like maybe they're capable of the big audacious goals. So, kind of using what you've done as a template, as kind of our listeners' business coach. First of all, you have an incredible presence and social media audience. You've got a international following. Like take us through like how you built that up and what's going on and what tips you would give to our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, we have to realize that as lawyers, we have a business, but we were trained as lawyers, and the practice of law is a noble profession. But if we focus on the business aspect, we could actually maximize and, more than anything, create standards for this practice, for our work product, the end product, and we could go ahead and assist as many people as possible. But that mindset of having this vision, having this idea of exponentially helping more people and assisting more people is very key. And so I got into social media very early on. I was one of the few lawyers at the moment. I think this was 2015, if I recall, that was on YouTube, and I did it consistently. Consistency is key in any industry. If you want to do something, and you definitely want this to fruition, you have to do it with intention. You have to do it in a sense where there is no plan B. In other words, you have to burn the ships. And you've heard that phrase, John, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
You want to go into the island, you go ahead and you burn the ships that way.
A lot of people you're helping, in a manner of speaking, burn the ships.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing. I'm an immigrant, and I have this entrepreneur mentality, and that's the immigrant spirit. Most immigrants are entrepreneurs. They're risk takers. I mean, you ask yourself, how many people will leave their home country and come to a country where they don't speak the language? They have no idea whether or not it's going to be a boom or a bust. They have no idea how life is going to be. They don't know anyone. They leave everything behind. They come to America with just a vision, a dream, and with their hopes, and they try to make it. And so this tolerance toward risk is there with the immigrant. This tenacity, this resilience in them is there. And I get a lot of inspiration from the immigrant community. Personally, I saw my parents grow up, and growing up, I saw my parents work, and they were working very, very hard. And so that instilled in me an ability to know exactly what was at stake. I was that young kid who was the interpreter for the parents, at stores, and I was 7. But going back to marketing is definitely one of those things that I think you have to do it. As a senior in your law firm, and I do have people working for me, I think your jobs should be, and this is my opinion, 3. Number 1, promoting the practice. Number 2, setting the vision, steering the ship, making sure people are aligned. And finally, number 3 is allocating resources, telling people or telling your team exactly where we're going to branch out, exactly what ventures we're going to pursue. That's definitely your goals as a leader. And so for me, I took that upon myself, as promoting the practice is extremely important. I have to talk about what we do in terms of immigration, not only promoting the practice to the masses, B2C, but also promoting the practice within our team internally, making sure people buy into the vision, the mission, the core values, and potentially recruiting other lawyers who could work here. I make sure that we promote applications for employment the way we do marketing for the masses. B2C, we do the same thing. This is a great place to work. We have a culture. We have all these things that we provide, and this is how our office works. So yeah, definitely marketing is one of my favorite areas, one of my favorite things to do. And I believe that as people, as humans, we're meant to be creators, and marketing is super creative and marketing is fun.
So what about you? When David's background, like, really was in marketing, right? Prior to law school, and then graduated law school, started working for a firm, and was able to still like do some marketing. I could see what he was putting out there as content. But I felt they were also, having him maybe dilute that energy by doing other stuff. And so I was like, hey, can you come over here and just purely kind of market or help us lead marketing? Like, he started in 2015 with like YouTube. Like, when did you start your kind of journey down the
marketing world?
Yeah.
So I actually started back in 2013.
Whoa.
Focus,
but he wasn't a lawyer yet.
But I wasn't a lawyer.
Yeah.
I did not have that advantage. However, it did give me like the basis, the background for, deploying what I wanted to do post law school. So fortunately, I was able to do marketing for many, many years. Then I went to law school. You graduate law school and you realize, you know what, I'm not going to start just as a first year associate. Like, I already have this background, the marketing. Let's just sort of like start like my own practice within another practice. And that's what, my former firm allowed me to do. So it gave me a lot of exposure. But like John said, I was litigating the cases. I was trying the cases while also doing the business development of the marketing and the branding. So fortunately, and after being a guest in this podcast, we discussed what percentage I wanted to do marketing and branding. And I just say, you know what, I love marketing and branding like you, Nar. And you realize, like you said, if you have that vision, that focus, and the branding, I think you're able to do it.
Oh, absolutely. And not only that, but you have to ask yourself, for a lack of a better word, where can I do the most damage? And that is the key for an individual who's able to go ahead and maybe showcase what they're all about. And, it's great doing legal work. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, we're lawyers. We're trained to do legal work. But at the end of the day, if you have a team who could produce the legal work and produce it at certain standards, and maybe your time is more valuable doing certain things and cutting out the noise.
Yeah, and just an extra comment on that, because I admire you guys as, the CEOs of the firms. And just the fact that, you guys share all like the numbers, you guys share the mission, you guys share the goals like every week consistently, like John on Fridays, on Mondays. I feel like that brings energy to the team to actually realize why you're here, right? One, you're for the clients, but then also for the success of the firm so we can help more clients in this region. And we talked about the Tijuana, the San Diego region. I was just like, I was pissed about some of these cases going to other cities where these attorneys are not even meeting with the client.
I love that. You just said CEO and you said you're in charge of motivating the team. As CEO, I think that should stand for Chief Energy Officer. You're definitely that person who goes ahead and pumps up the team. You're definitely that person that leads the charge. You have to be that person who promotes the law firm as much as possible within the team and outside the team, B2C and also internally. You have to be that person.
And so I wonder, like, the people you're reaching out to, like, how would you describe your target audience? I think I know, but can you tell us?
Absolutely. So within marketing, you could look at your avatar. Who would be your ideal client? For me, it's the Mexican national who's been living in the U.S. for about anywhere from 5, 10 plus years. And they've been here for a while. They might have a mixed status family, meaning that they might have USC children, United States citizen children. They may or may not have had maybe a little bit of a issue with their background, maybe prior immigration history. They're undocumented. That is my avatar, the target market, the target person I'm trying to reach. Do I have other people I service? Absolutely. We're all inclusive, but if you focus my marketing, that would be the person, the ideal individual I have to reach. And when it comes to my marketing, I try to reach that person, speak to their wants, their desires, their needs, and also make sure I'm known, I'm liked, and I'm trusted. And when it comes to reaching that person, I also do my very best to reach people who could reach that person. For instance, I'm starting to do some of my marketing geared at their adult children, their children who are only English speakers. Why? Because mom and dad deserve a better life in this country, and you are in the position to help them out. And you, as a U.S. citizen child, you can understand that there's certain laws that can help your mom and dad.
That's interesting. So, like, what percentage, I just frankly don't know, of your content is English v. Spanish v.
I'd say maybe around now, 99% of my content is Spanish.
Also, todavía, still.
Yeah, absolutely. I still do English. We're moving into the English market. As of now, as the firm is growing, I am moving my way from doing legal work to just doing CEO work. And part of my evolution is to go into different markets. I was telling David here that most of my focus has been on B2C, but now I have a lot more free time, and my job is to promote the practice. And so I definitely want to move to B2B, and that is networking with other lawyers, knowing the community a lot more, and being at the service to serve the community. And, my goal is to eventually reach different audiences, and not just English, but also in Chinese, Mandarin, and other languages.
So, so in terms of choosing a lawyer, like, because now you're speaking in terms that are important, for many of us, like, we might be after your exact target, client, but is the adult kid that speaks English, is that going to be the avenue to get that client? Is it good to work through that kid or work directly to the target? Or is it always best to target if they're married, the wife versus the husband? Like, what have you found? Because you've been doing this for a while, and I will say probably 5% of our listeners are from our community, like trying to attract Latino clients, whether in immigration, criminal, what we do, personal injury. And you've talked about ways. Who are the decision makers in your experience?
It really depends. Sometimes it's the family as a whole. Sometimes it's the husband. I have to talk to my wife about it. Let me think about it. At the end of the day, when an attorney does a consultation, you always get those objections. But who do I speak to? I speak to everyone. It's the parent. Most of the time, it would be the avatar. It would be the head of household. And in what you would call a traditional family, immigrant family usually would be the male. So the father, the husband. So I would speak to that individual, but there's nothing wrong with touching base with the wife, the children. Why? Because they make a difference, How many times has a child recommended a lawyer to their parent? Lots of times. And so I try to do everything I can in terms to speak to the market in general. And when I focus on being known, liked, and trusted, I actually have buckets of content for each one of those areas. I have buckets to be known, buckets to be liked, and buckets to be trusted. Now, let's talk about trust, because trust is a big issue. You're asking people to endorse something, endorse your brand, endorse your law firm, and believe in what you're going to do. And if you're in not the personal injury space, but you're in the consumer space where you're doing immigration services, you're asking them to give up thousands of dollars. And so how do you become trusted? Well, you have to look at trust very carefully, and you have to look at what values immigrants have. And values are, very important. You can't compromise those values. And when it comes to creating content, there's really not a CTA, not a call to action. But when it comes to building trust, you might provide content about the the wins you might have, it might be about your upbringing. One of the things we're doing in terms of a marketing venture is interviewing my parents. Why is that important? Because I was raised a certain way. I was raised the right way. My mom talks about the values she instilled in me as a young man. She talks about the struggles we went through, and those values are important. Why? Because I want people to know they could trust me. And I want people to know that I was raised with two parents, and parents had fears, they had dreams, they had goals, they were very humble, and they really believe in putting their children first. And they taught me well, and I want to showcase that.
I love it. And so that's in a video format?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the attention span of the consumer is very short nowadays. If you pump out a podcast to the consumer, the attention span is going to be very short. So it's video format. It's doing it in reels. It's doing it in anywhere from 60 to 120-second videos that are impactful. But yeah, it's to have that person scrolling stop and look at this video, and it's a touch point. And what I mean by the touch point is, everyone knows that in marketing, you need about 7 to 15 touch points in order for someone to convert, meaning in order for someone to know, like, and trust you. So definitely touch points are extremely important. You do that very well. You do that with your marketing. Your marketing is not just digital, but it's billboards. It's all the above. So yeah.
And so just what's your audience like? How many followers you have and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we have a growing of people on YouTube. I think, I'm not sure what it's at. I think it's 166,000 subscribers. Facebook, I haven't looked at it. Instagram, no, but we're up there. We have a lot of followers. Most of the content we deliver is just value. And what I mean by value is you give people value, as much value as you can in terms of information. This is legal knowledge. This is how you could get this benefit. And I also do it in terms of storytelling, because I think storytelling is really important. As a lawyer, your goal is to tell stories, and not just stories, but tell stories that could resonate with the community. Like, for instance, Joe, just like you, an immigrant, grew up here and had this problem, faced this issue, and this is how we were able to guide them and support them and help them. He's just like you. If you have a story just like Joe, remember, it's possible, it's doable. Don't stand on the sidelines. Be just like Joe, and get that person, that lawyer who's able to assist you.
Yeah, I love the providing education, because that's something that we really believe in. We as you know, we also have a lot of opportunities with media, and when we go our these platforms, what we try to do is provide that value, that education. But adding to that, I understand that's the social media presence, and you say that you're reaching the children. Are we gonna have a NAR TikToker soon? Is that gonna happen?
I'm already on TikTok. I'm already on Instagram. You could see me there, dance, do all the. I'm kidding. I don't dance, but no, absolutely. We're all over the place, and we have a marketing department. We have a marketing team. We have 2 full-time video editors. They're both in Colombia, and we have a spokesperson. We have a chief of marketing operations. So yeah, we are definitely well built. We're trying to expand more, and the more we get known, and the more we're liked, the more we're trusted. It definitely feeds the bottom line. It definitely helps the practice, and more than anything, we get to help a lot more people get their, fulfill the American dream.
Yeah, I'm assuming here that you also get into the creative, like John. I know, like, John likes the creative part of building a brand and the billboards and what's got to be on TV. I'm assuming you do the same, because I saw like your YouTube captions, right? You got to make them interesting. You got to make them impactful to make sure that people actually click on those videos.
Absolutely. And sometimes this is sometimes a little bit outside of a comfort zone someone can have, because as you mentioned, John, not a lot of lawyers feel comfortable selling themselves, marketing. It's being a lawyer, and lawyers don't do that. But at the end of the day, if you really have that vision to grow Marketing can be done. It could be done in a classy way. It could be done through your personal brand. Whatever your goals are, whatever your core values are, you could keep them intact. And when it comes to marketing, yes, I'm very involved with the creative work, but I also open the doors to ideas. Why? Because even though marketing could be set through my vision, at the end of the day, what I like isn't really what my avatar likes. So I make sure to listen to people. I make sure to listen to the market, and I make sure that I'm everywhere in terms of where my avatar could be. I have a Spanish corrido with Supernar as but yeah, we do a lot of marketing for purposes of reaching that avatar.
And so, what about Supernar? What does he do?
So what's in the name? A flower by any other name would still smell less sweet. So, in terms of marketing, you definitely have to be memorable. John Gomez is a memorable name, and the thing about names is that they're very powerful. When people go into showbiz, they actually change their names for that purpose. So, people could call me Narciso Delgado Cruz, and that's a great name. It's nothing wrong. It's my given name. But, how do I become memorable? Hey, habla con el abogado Supernar. Yeah. And I'm here to defend, to protect, and fight for you. Absolutely. So, do I use that in professional settings? Absolutely not. But that's definitely a marketing thing, and that's how I advertise at times for certain radio stations. I'm on radio where certain music might be regional Mexican music, and so we have to advertise a different way. And we might be on a different platform, so advertise in a different way because listeners are very diverse. Even though I focus on an avatar, that avatar could also be a very diverse individual.
What about, see, now I'm just asking questions for us.
Oh, I love it. I know. I love talking shop.
And so, for your videos, are you always suit and tie?
No, absolutely not. And I try to break the momentum. Obviously, you could speak in monotone, and that could be very boring. I try to introduce and try to get that hook. Those 30 seconds are super important. I usually start my shows with my catchphrase. What's up, everyone? It's Supernar talking to you. And so I start with a catchphrase, and I try to make sure the audience is hooked. I try to go ahead and make sure that what I'm going to talk about, those first 2 minutes are intentional. I make that intro intentional because I want to keep the audience hooked. And I want to go ahead and within my presentation, I want to go ahead and put core things I want to deliver. And those are the buckets: liked, known, and trusted. I'm going to go ahead and implement talking points. I do this intentionally. In other words, I plan ahead the content. It's never free flowing. It's never just let's go ahead and see and freestyle. It's always intentional because I want to deliver a certain message and I want to deliver it a certain way. And I know that you're competing with a lot of other people in the platform. So I definitely have to stand out. And in order to stand out, you have to be intentional with what you do, how you do it in terms of your marketing, for sure.
And so, how much of your stuff is visually suit and tie versus not suit and tie?
Oh, got you. Okay, perfect.
Because I've always been of maybe the mistaken belief that for the avatar you're talking about, like, it's better to look the part.
It's better to look the part, yes and no. I think to some degree, it really depends on which part of the avatar you're looking at. Sometimes the part of the avatar is someone who wants to know that you're not going to be el abogado presumido. Very intimidating. John Gomez, oh my God, he worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office. He came from a prestigious law school. But you would definitely want to sound human. And the way you could do that is not just a suit and tie, but also the way you carry yourself. And I think you could still have maybe a collar shirt, maybe a blazer, no blazer. You can have a t-shirt if you want. I usually don't do that. But it's also the way you greet people. I make sure that I stand up, shake hands, and whoever comes through my doors, I treat them with the utmost respect. And we have a sign, everyone's welcome. No one here is, no one's going to be standing. In fact, we have almost a video as to what to expect when you come in through our doors. And it's myself just leading the person through my doors and telling them, hey, listen, we have people of all walks in life. Just come as you are. Don't be shy. And this is what you'll get when you speak to us. And we'll go ahead and humanize that lawyer as opposed to being a machine and a well-educated, good pedigree individual. We humanize that individual by having him or her shake hands, by having him or her greet people that look like our ideal avatar.
Love it. Another thing that I think would be helpful to, our listeners and viewers is we were talking about extra national team members. And like a lot of us, our listeners are targeting and serving a Spanish-speaking, client base. And we just recently, we do a lot of our intakes, through Mexico with Mexican nationals and team members. We just had our first Colombian team member. And I know that you believe strongly in that. You're talking, you have 2 video editors down there. And maybe like some of our listeners or viewers aren't even familiar with the possibility of doing that and really the advantages of doing that. So maybe you could speak a little to your, heart and passion for that.
Absolutely. John, we live in an incredible time. This is 2026. We have an incredible, powerful machine that fits in the palm of our hands, and that's called the internet. Communication is out there, and you have no idea how much this world is talented. We have people who speak fluent English in foreign countries like Mexico, Colombia. We have people in, my office has people in South Africa, in the Philippines. We have people all over the world. And we found out that sometimes when you want to hire, you definitely, sometimes it's necessary to hire in-house. But when you hire within the geographical area, you're limiting yourself to talent within that geographical area. Why don't you look worldwide? And when you look worldwide, you have no idea the potential talent you have available to you. And you ask yourself, how can this person in this country work for me? Well, that's a great question to ask. Formalizing or analyzing the problem or verbalizing the problem is halfway through the solution. So we go ahead and create systems to either onboard them, having them as team members, making sure we have quality control, making sure we have security issues in place. And so it's possible. It's possible to get a lot of rural contractors. In fact, I think the future of the law firm is having rural contractors and leveraging rural contractors as much as possible, and also implementing AI, automation. But more than anything, our practice is heavily focused on acquiring talent worldwide. We have an HR assistant whose job is only to interview, look at resumes, interview these potential candidates, and then her job is also to onboard them. We have a TCLO university, the Cruz Law Office University, where they're within a week, they get onboarded, they learn our systems, and then we send them to pods, meaning that they get sent to individual teams where they produce and they provide feedback and good work. And when it comes to our onboarding, I'm pretty proud of the onboarding. We spend a lot of time creating our university, and we make sure that certain protocols are set. For instance, computer usage, internet speed, all those things have to come into alignment. And obviously the taxes, the payroll, everything of that sort. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I guess you kind of think about it because, we have a lot of, I have a lot of professional, friends, family members, mainly in Mexico. And you're kind of amazed at the incredibly talented people, and maybe just by virtue of the system or, how they grew up or where they grew up, or the kind of lack of real ability to move forward in their profession. And so maybe in Colombia, for example, feel like a lot of those very, well-educated, hardworking, fully bilingual professionals are basically working at call centers, that's the job they can get. And, we went down and interviewed a number of potential applicants. We wanted to, get our first guy on board and get him trained up. Soon we'll have a formal university, but got him trained up, and now we're going to expand. I feel like for sure agree with you that that's the future, and it's such an advantage, and they're so grateful, like changing their lives, like the work you do, like for the immigrants that come here and changing their lives, but for the people that are working for you abroad, like that's a huge life-changing event for them too.
Absolutely. And I agree with you, John. And it's not just providing jobs with wages, but it's also building a culture. It's possible to build a culture with remote workers, rural contractors. I like to, one of the things I believe in as a CEO is that they don't work for me. I work for them. I make sure they're taken care of. I make sure that when going into this venture, they know that we are stabilized. We are not going belly up. A lot of people in the space, unfortunately, have experiences where an employer contracts them. They're not really set. They don't set the person up for success, meaning that there is no onboarding. There is no KPIs. There is absolutely no rhyme or rhythm to what they're going to do on a daily basis. There's no oversight. And so you set people up for failure, and then all of a sudden, sometimes there's a disagreement and the employer disappears and leaves them without payment. And there's no recourse for a lot of them. So we are not that company. We make sure our systems are set up. We make sure our people have benefits. We make sure we provide people a future, a career. There is no ceiling in our law firm. There's room for growth.
So, like I will say I'm relatively shocked to be, having a conversation with an immigration attorney or even like an attorney. You sound like a business coach. Like you're talking KPIs, you're talking culture, you're talking the 3 tenets of marketing, you're talking, onboarding. Like, how did you learn all this? Like what, like if we have listeners that want to approximate what you're doing, like what should they do? What should they read? Have you ever thought about doing business coaching?
Never thought about doing business coaching. I think I like what I currently, but it's one of my core values is do my very best, just do my very best. And so I asked myself a big question. How can I become a better employer? How can I become a better business owner? How can I become a better lawyer? Or if I'm not a lawyer, how can I give a better legal service to the people who are my clients? So those are questions I ask. And sometimes I don't have the answers to those questions, but the fact that I'm asking those questions are those big, audacious goals. And so you work backwards and you have a vision as to how can I become a better business owner that reaches this revenue number? You don't have the answer, but you'll break it down into a problem and you have 4 quarters to complete that problem. And so, yes, I decided quite a while ago that I wanted to work on the business. And in order for me to do that, I had to seek out mentors, people who are doing what I wanted to do in the space. And so I had to make sure I took on this as a very serious venture. We went to law school, but there are people who go to school just for business. And if I'm going to pretend I'm a business owner, well, let me go ahead and at least polish myself up, read some things I have to read, maybe take a course, maybe learn from other people, maybe acquire mentors, maybe learn what the space requires. And sometimes it's not really how, but it's who. And there's a great book. It's called Who, Not How. And it's the concept of obtaining people in your team who could potentially exponentially help you reach that goal. And so one of the most expensive but worthwhile hires was a COO, a Chief Operation Officer, who is able to implement the vision I have and manage people, create systems, create positions to foster leaders. And that person has helped me out a lot. Sometimes it's not really just you. I mean, if you have no capital to start with or play with, or unfortunately you just don't have that, you could either leverage yourself, you could really take a big risk, or you could potentially go into debt. But more than anything, for me, it was just a worthwhile investment. This COO, if you crunch the numbers, is not producing immediately. It was not producing a return on investment. Like this employer is not going to be a salesperson or anything like that. It's just going to be overhead. But you look at the vision, you look at the upside. And that's one of the things that I think most people tend to not have is that they get paralysis analysis. When we look at hiring an individual, we look at how much is this going to cost me? It's going to be more overhead. I'm going to have to pay taxes, but that's really not the way you should do it. You should look at the upside. If I hire this person, how much more free time am I going to get? How much more is my business going to be able to grow?
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I feel like of all the many excellent guests, like I have learned as much speaking with you and listening to you as I have with anyone, because, we obviously struggle with all the same issues, setting goals, reaching goals, managing, cash flow, risk benefit analyses, all that stuff. Who should we have here versus there? We're talking about office space versus, lack thereof, like a lot of, key issues that a lot of our listeners, share these same, questions about. So what about you, David? Do you have some sort of closing, questions or comments?
Yeah, I hear very good thoughts and very good vision from Nar. And
Super Nar.
yeah, he's super Nar. He gives us a list of books that, we've been writing down. My question would be like, when is Nar gonna come out with his own book with all this vision and all these goals and all this training that you're doing for your staff?
It's funny when the average CEO reads about 50 books per year. There's 52 weeks in a year, but yeah, knowledge is really the new money, I think. And so knowledge is super powerful. When am I going to write a book? I don't know. I'll ask AI about that. It's, I love reading. Reading is pretty much, Warren Buffett was interviewed and they asked him, if you could, but what superpower would you have? Is it the ability to see the future, to fly? And he was like, no, it's the ability to read faster, obtain more knowledge quicker. And so I think knowledge is super powerful. It just makes you sharper. And it gives you this one thing that's missing in a lot of people, and it's called awareness. Sometimes you have to back up and look at all the variables instead of saying, hey, this is just a problem and you're lost within the trees. You look at the forest and you look at strategy and you look at the bigger picture, because at the end of the day, that bigger picture is just going to it's going to give you the ability to think as to whether or not this is noise or this is really impactful work.
Love it. Well, it's been a great privilege, so excited, to get to know you personally. If our listeners or viewers want to find out more about you or follow you, where do they look?
LinkedIn is a great way. This is a B2B show. So LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn. I love talking shop. If you just want to go ahead and talk about immigration law, let's do it. If you want to talk about the business of law practice, I would love to have a chit chat. I'm always open to that. It's one of my favorite things to do. So if you want to talk marketing, that's great. Yeah. So LinkedIn, Narciso Cruz would be the name. If you want to find me on Instagram, you could do that. If you like receiving memes, you'll get a lot from me.
I love it. All right. So, final kind of closing, question that I like sometimes to ask some of our guests. So if you had the ability to write into the sky, some words of advice or words to live by, that would exist up in the sky forever for everyone to see, what would your message be to them?
It would be this quote I try to live by, and it would be, there is no comfort in the growth zone, and there is no growth in the comfort zone. And I think that, for me to put myself out there on YouTube 2015, I did not want to do that. Number one, I'm a very reserved person. I like to keep a private life. But at the end of the day, I gave myself the ability to do two things. I gave myself permission to do two things. Number one, to embarrass myself. I gave myself permission to embarrass myself, to say, hey, I'm going to put myself out there. Some people are going to make fun of me. I might stumble on my words. It's going to happen. And number two, I gave myself permission to fail. And that's the thing about having goals and dreams, is that you just don't want to verbalize them, because what if I fail? What if I don't make it? So I live by that goal is to definitely do things outside of the comfort zone.
I love it. Well, thanks so much for spending time with us. It was a treat to get to know you better. I look forward to kind of digging into some of the issues that you've raised. And I feel like as a result of our conversation, I'm going to be a better leader, better lawyer, and do better in my life. Like you, I feel like, we have a responsibility. I feel like I have a responsibility to help as many people as I possibly can. I feel like we do it better than vast majority of people out there that do what we do. So I don't have any qualms about marketing because I know that we can help more people have more reach. And then, like you said, for our internal employees and team, like building that culture, those core values and recognition and having everyone buy in, super important to me too. So thank you so much for spending time with us. It was a pleasure. Everyone, this concludes this episode. Thank you, David, as always.
Of course.
Of the Latino. If you like, please follow us, share, comment, look up Super Nar for excellent content and dialogue, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Latino Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.